know, a lot of people let me know that they wanted to be here today, but the timing didn't work. So I'm Sue Mackey, and I think I know a lot of you. I have a small business called Out of the Box End of Life Planning. And through that business, I talk about funeral planning all the time. And I talk about all of these different options and even some other more obscure things because I feel really strongly about people knowing what their options are, to not just walk into a funeral home at the time of need and be asked if you want burial or cremation. There's just so much more to offer, as you could tell just from the list of presenters. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Funeral Consumer Society. Some of you may or may not be aware of who we are and what we do, but we are the state organization underneath, we're an affiliate of the Funeral Consumers Alliance, which is a national organization for advocating for consumer rights around funerals. So our mission is to educate people about their different options, about how to make a selection of a funeral provider, all of the different things that they might need to know in order to be treated fairly. We now have a price survey on our website, which is funeralconsumercolorado.org. And there's a tab on that website that says price survey. We're about 85% done with collecting the pricing and the ownership and all that of all the funeral homes in Colorado, 300 plus funeral providers in Colorado. So it's there as a tool for people to utilize to narrow down by price and ownership and a couple of other parameters by their area. They can go. You can go by city or by county, and the phone numbers and web addresses and all that are there. So it makes it very easy to pre-shop. We feel very strongly that and support people pre-planning, making decisions ahead of time, finding out what your options are, doing all that research and homework, and then writing that down in your paperwork so that your family has guidance from you, so that they're not left at a time of need when they're in deep grief and not in a headspace or heart space to be trying to navigate all the decision process. What ends up happening is those people end up making decisions that are way more costly than maybe need to be, or there's just a lot more stress because they don't have guidance from you and they don't know what you'd want. So it's a gift to your families to be able to do this kind of research, narrow it down, write down what it is that you've chosen, and give direction to your family. So I'm glad Jill already let you guys know who she is. The funny story is that Jill was president of the Funeral Consumer Society board, and a couple of years ago asked me if I would come on as vice president, saying, oh, it's no big deal, if I can't be at a meeting, you could just run the meeting for me. And then COVID hit, and with her responsibility at Spring Hill, I then became president. So now she's vice president. Anyway, I think we're a good team, and we've got several other board members present on the call. There's so many of us that you can't really see everyone here, but I see the Taylors, Jim and Judy Taylor, who are both, they're our treasurer, and Judy is our newsletter writer and web person, and Marilyn Menzudo is our secretary. And anybody else holler? Okay. All right. With that, we're going to get off and start. So Jill, I'm going to leave it to you. Jill's going to moderate for us, and I'm going to monitor the chat room. I would appreciate it if we're going to have each presenter speak for about 8 minutes or less. And if you'll put your questions into the chat so you don't have to remember them. And then once we get through all the presentations, we'll go through what's in the chat, and you can also jump in and ask some questions. Sound okay? Oh, and if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves during the presentation, just sometimes there's background noise. Appreciate it. Okay, take it away, Jill.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sue. We will leave plenty of time for questions. And like Sue said, if you want to put your questions in the chat, please do so. If you want to ask them on Zoom, please do so, whatever you're most comfortable with. We just encourage you to think about your question and see the appropriateness. Your question, your comment and the appropriateness it is for the group. If it's something personal, please put it in the chat and one of us will get back to you if there's, something that we can help you with on a personal nature. So our first presenter, we have Karen Van Vuren with the Natural Funeral. Karen, we look forward to hearing all about the Natural Funeral.
Hi, I have some slides. Can I share those? Or not?
Absolutely. So one of the moderators, it's not me, but somebody can give you the screen share permissions. So I don't know if Jim Taylor is doing that or Sue, but absolutely, Karen, thank you.
Okay, maybe it's already enabled.
There you go. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. And please give me a heads up if I don't know if I'm going to be able to see the time. So anyway, this is, I'm Karen Van Vuren. I'm one of the co-founders of the Natural Funeral, and we are a holistic and a green funeral home based in Lafayette, Colorado, but kind of serving the whole of Colorado these days, which is interesting. I am involved in this work, I believe, for the same reasons that a lot of people get involved in end-of-life work, and there's a personal story involved. And in my case, it was my brother dying when he was 9 and I was 11 after a lifelong illness. And I'm just so grateful to be able to bring options to families and to also allow them to connect with death in a creative way that often is potentially healing. And I'm replacing Seth, so I don't have the beard. He's quite the mascot for our business. He's a co-owner. And there's Dan Ziskin, who's not shown, who's also a co-owner. And this is a little picture of our resource room, which has lots of artist-made urns and biodegradable products. So I'm gonna start. I've only got 5 slides. I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about Reverend Body Care, which is something that I did for 15 plus years under a nonprofit called Natural Transitions. And it is a natural caring for the deceased's body, which invites participation from families. In many traditions, in many cultures, families were very connected to their dead, and they were the ones who cared for them in a very hands-on way. So they washed the body one last time, and often there was an anointing ceremony using essential oils like frankincense. And so for many years, I did this with families in their homes, and actually our funeral home still supports what are called home funerals. But we have a really beautiful chapel that is all beetle kill pine wood. And so the amazing thing is we've been able to offer this ritual, this ceremony, which is more than a washing. It's really a washing with love and a bearing witness, and also an opportunity to let go of the physical remains. We've been able to do that in our chapel in Lafayette, and that has just opened up this possibility of being with a loved one who has passed to so many more people. It's incredible to me how many people are actually embracing that, of the clients that come to us. I'm going to give a little overview of green burial as an option. This is a photograph of a green burial that we were able to assist with. And in this instance, it's a family that chose to have their loved one shrouded in a biodegradable shroud. The body is not embalmed in green burial. Typically, that's one of the requirements, that it's naturally cared for, and that the material that goes into the earth is biodegradable. This is a willow carrier that was just used for the family to actually be able to transport their loved one to the graveside. And then those wooden planks that are there across the grave are pulled out after the ropes, the people holding the ropes have a firm grip, and then removed. They're removed, and the body is lowered into a more shallow grave than is typical in a conventional cemetery. And that is so that the body can really decompose better and return to the earth. So green burial is a very low carbon footprint option that allows you to really be a blessing to the earth. And then we have water cremation, which I know Emily's going to talk about as well. So maybe I'll be fairly brief on that. It's been around for quite some time, actually since the end of the 19th century, and was used a lot for livestock in order to reduce the body to a very accessible form for the earth to uptake as a nutrient. And it involves water, primarily water, and alkaline compounds like potash to, over the course of a few hours, reduce the body to just bones. And then the liquid is an amazing fertilizer for the earth. And that's also a very low carbon footprint option for families who want to go green. I have no idea what the, what the time is here. I feel like I'm whizzing through. Oh, I've got 3 minutes left. My goodness. Okay, well, let me devote that time then to body composting, which we as a funeral home are really proud to be offering. It was legalized, actually became legal this year. There was a bill that was introduced a couple of years ago, and then when COVID came about, it was shelved. And this year it passed into law, and that happened on September 7th of this year. It actually became legal. It was signed earlier in the year, but actually became legal for us to offer on September 7th. And Seth, who I'm standing in for here, is really our body composting guru. He has done a ton of research and visited the providers in Washington state, Washington was the first state to offer body composting, and now there's Colorado was the second, and now Oregon has legalized it as well. And Seth really got a lot of great information about how it is being done in modern times, and then came back and with a construction background decided to build a vessel, which was co-constructed by Chris, who you can see in this picture there. He runs our water cremation facility in Arvada, and at a staff meeting, I ventured to suggest that we call the vessel the Chrysalis after Chris, and also because of its transformative powers. And so the Chrysalis is made from repurposed materials, which we're proud of, and it houses our deceased clients. And we have now 5 clients that are in our Chrysalis vessels. And we are currently looking actually for a place that has a rural setting with a barn where we can really grow this business, because there's a lot of interest in it. It's really composting in the way that you are familiar with, but we are adding biochar ingredients, which are fungi and really very active microbial matter, and wood chips and straw, and what you can see in the background, biodynamic teas as well. And we are tending this vessel. This is a managed biological process, and it is miraculous, absolutely miraculous, that in the course of a few months, the body can be reduced to bones. And we actually believe we're going to be able to compost bones as well. And we're pioneering this in Colorado, and again, we're pretty amazed at the interest. And I feel that people really gravitate to particular things, and they've almost like ruled things out from the get-go sometimes, like, oh my God, that's not for me. Like, oh, water cremation, ugh. Or body composting, ugh. Or it's like, that makes so much sense, really so much sense. And our body composting clients, of the 5 that we have now in Chrysalis vessels, 4 of them, because one is not an adult, is a young person, 4 of them were just such avid gardeners and composters themselves that they chose this to be their method of final disposition, and their families supported that. So
Erin, thank you. No, it's fascinating, and that's why we're all here. We're up to 47 people listening. So thank you, everybody. Welcome. That was Karen Van Vuren with the Natural Funeral. Thank you very much. And our next presenter is Emily Nelson with Be a Tree. So Emily, we would love to hear about Be a Tree. Thank you so much. And Karen, thanks again. And please remind everybody, those that joined us late, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat.
Hello, it's so nice to be with everyone. And thanks, Karen, for giving us such a lovely overview. So I'm with Be a Tree Cremation. We opened in January of this year, and our primary focus right now is just water cremation. So the two goals that we have at Be a Tree are to help people live on through nature after they die, and to reduce the carbon footprint associated with the funeral industry. A lot of people don't realize, they think that cremation, fire cremation is the simplest and best option for the environment, but it's actually quite damaging. It's the CO2 from one cremation is about the equivalent of a 600-mile car trip. And, there's going to be toxic emissions like mercury coming from those processes as well. And we're burning fossil fuels. So all around, just not a great choice. So that's what it led me to water cremation, because you still get a very similar end result in terms of the family being able to get an urn back with their loved ones' cremated remains or ashes. And then you get this other beautiful component with the water that's able to go back and return to the earth. So give you a really quick overview of the process. We're going to start with 95% water and about 5% alkali. So we use a potassium hydroxide, so very similar to the things that would go into making soap. And then over in our process, and I know some are going to be a little faster or different, but our process takes about 18 hours altogether. So the water is just going to gently circulate and break down the body, except for the skeletal remains and anything artificial like implants. So at the end of the process, we're really just left with those two things. So we have the skeletal remains, which then get processed and placed into an urn, very similar to what you would get with fire cremation. And then we have the water that's left. And so we call our water tree tea, and it nourishes a local floral farm here, which I'll show you a picture of here in just a moment. So it's all returning to the earth. And we're overall using 90% less energy than a fire cremation would use. And we don't have any emissions from our building at all from, smoke. So it's just a really lovely process. And we feel really honored to be part of the community and see all the interest in these greener methods really starting to come to fruition. And, I think that what we're all kind of combating right now is that idea that we're separate from nature. So we're kind of trying to remind people that we're not separate from nature, and here are these wonderful options, and using all these different elements that we can return to the earth. Really quick, I'm going to go ahead and show you just a picture of our facility and the farm where we take the tree tea. So just one second here. Okay, so this is what our machine looks like. And again, I always try to just demystify what this looks like. And some of you on this call have seen our facility before. So we have the alkaline hydrolysis system here where the water cremation takes place. And then over on the left is our holding tank for the tree tea, where it stays until we're ready to take it to the farm. So when we are taking it there, this is what the farm looks like. It's called Half Moon, and they grow mostly fresh cut flowers. So we're able to nourish the soil there and help them have beautiful blooms in the spring and in the summer. And it's just such a lovely kind of partnership. So that's an overview about Be a Tree. I will go ahead and let the next person speak.
Oh, Emily, thank you so much. It's fascinating. We already do have a few questions in the chat. So again, we'll wait till all the presenters are done. So as you have questions, please put those in there, because I think they'll benefit us all. Our next presenter is Tomorrow Link. Is it John Chapman? Is he standing in for Lauren?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wonderful, John. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
I am glad to be here as well.
So great.
So-
Yep. Tell us about Tomorrow Link.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everybody, depending on where you're dialing in from. My name is John Chapman. I am the founding member and chairman of Tomorrow Link. Our mission, simply put, is better training for frontline personnel. We're a veteran-founded and a licensed Colorado nonprofit, non-transplant tissue bank. It's a lot of words, so what does that mean? So empowered by our compassionate donors and their families, we facilitate the use of whole body donations to offer advanced training for emergency medical professionals. The short of it, your gift helps save lives in the next generation of learners. To date, over 1,000 local EMS learners have received hands-on education in our facility due to the compassionate donations of people in our community. We value transparency in our practices, and honoring each donor's legacy is our priority. There are many options when it comes to afterlife care, and there is not one that fits any particular need for a family. A lot of different services can be combined. The two speakers ahead of me would be an option after we have facilitated training for pre-hospitalists, for trauma surgeons, for paramedics that are out putting their skills to work every single day. We focus on whole body in, whole body out, which means we focus on keeping a donor's body intact throughout the learning process. We engage with the family throughout the donation. Our call center is organic to my team. So you are talking to, one of 5 people throughout the entire process. So we have families that are checking in to determine, hey, what type of training has been accomplished? What did my loved one's contribution provide to the continuation of medical care? Within our community here, South Metro Fire Rescue, Denver Health, CU Boulder, a Flight for Life program called Apollo Flight, all those learners are coming through our facility, and we cannot do our training without whole body donation being at the forefront of our mission. When it comes to family support, it is a trying time for anybody. We try to make the process as seamless as possible through our pre-need sign-up. So this is something that donors decide that this is something that they want to do, that they have that conversation with their family. So it is put into place prior to death, and then we take care of the rest after that. One of the things that our donors and our donors' families really, really appreciate, all the learners that come through my facility write thanks to you letters, and those are provided at the time of cremation returns to the families. These thanks to you letters have proved to be incredibly heartfelt from all these different learners, from EMT basics up to trauma surgeons with 10 years, 20 years of tenure in their experience, because they recognize and understand that this is the ultimate gift at the time of moving on to the next chapter. At the time after learning has been accomplished, currently, most families prefer cremation. We provide the thank you letters, basically a certificate, and return the cremains back in a box to the loved one's families. But as I mentioned a few moments ago, cremation is just one option. The other folks on this call have some pretty amazing options that I really think that we could look at some collaboration to maximize the contribution to future learners, to the future medical professionals within Colorado. And so with that is Tomorrow Link, a whole body donation organization. I really appreciate everybody's time for jumping on and taking an interest in what we do. A little bit about me. I was a pre-hospitalist in the special operations community, went through a wide variety of medical training, and that is what drove me to understand the importance of this type of medical training, because it brought me home alive, It brought several of my my colleagues home alive as well. So it's from a very, very deep rooted and passionate place that that we're doing what we do. So again, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. It's fascinating information that everybody's sharing. And you're right. I think there's opportunities for collaboration for us all. Absolutely. Thank you. So next presenter, Crestone End of Life Project. We have Stephanie Blevins and Gussie Fauntleroy.
Thank you so much. Gussie should be joining us in a moment to screen share and show you photos of our location and our site and what the cremation looks like. We were legally established in 2007. Crestone's an unusual community. There are many practice and retreat centers here. And when we began to establish, look at establishing an open air cremation site, it was really out of the interest of the community. Okay. It's a very natural process. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. At any rate, it's a very natural process. We're an entirely volunteer group. When we were first established, there were no funeral business nor crematory business there wasn't any oversight. The board had folded. But then, so somehow we were able to come through and be approved legally by Dora. But then House Bill 112 passed, and now we have lots of statutes to direct how funeral and crematory operations are conducted. And we worked with the Department of Regulatory Agencies to establish a way that we could continue to serve our community and still meet their requirements. So we're restricted in several ways. We can't refrigerate bodies, we can't transport bodies, we can't prepare bodies as one would do with embalming, and we can't run it as a business. So we're entirely dependent on donations. And it's been quite a remarkable journey because we've never needed for anything. We've been completely supported by the community and by our outreach Informed Final Choices. Our website is informedfinalchoices.org. We provide information and materials on end of life issues. If you visit our site, you'll see there's an incredible range of information that's available. We, in our cremations, use really no more than 1/4 of a cord of wood, if that much. The burn is complete in 2 hours, and the next day the family will come to collect the cremains. And here's Gussie coming on. This is the entryway to the cremation site. That little kiosk we refer to as the Celestial Bus Stop because it's the only one you'll ever need once you come here to our pyre. You'll see that the pyre site is outside. It's enclosed by bamboo fencing. It's shaped like a mandala. There's a whole ritual and a procession that we follow for people to enter into the pyre site. Each guest is given juniper, which they place on the body. And we have an altar that was built, what we refer to as the memorial altar. And so every cremation is totally unique. The altars are set up by the families with some assistance from our volunteers if we need it. It's labor intensive. When we get the call, it's a 3-day process. And we do care of the body. We really are very much a home funeral service, a family-directed home funeral service that is served through, in this case, open air cremation, but we also just completed our establishing of a natural burial ground, which is adjacent to the pyre site, and that was just approved by our county commissioners. We're restricted to serving only residents of the Saguache County, which is a huge county in terms of land. And we have a registration process. If you visit our site, you would be able to download and look at our registration process.
Very lovely.
This is the entryway to the procession path that the pyre site is behind us. We've done over 70 cremations and we'll continue to do so. We have over 300 people from our community registered. And it's been a real blessing for all of us that are able to serve our community in this way. You can see people, this is the procession. It goes up to the pyre site and encircles it and then comes through the arched way. We have a local craftsperson who makes the stretchers. We have local artisans who make urns. The ashram that's located in Crestone always donates saris to be used as shrouds. So it's a real community-driven effort. And more over these many years, our community has really been able to take on different parts. So the guests are placing juniper on the body, then wood is placed, and then there are 4 people who will light the pyre, as you can see here.
Wait, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt Stephanie and Gussie. Would everybody please mute, or if Sue or Jim can control muting everyone, please? Thank you.
So each cremation, as I said, is unique. And we as volunteers, it's always a learning process for us. Every cremation is reviewed, every fire is reviewed, so that we're always honing our ability to be efficient, to be conscientious and mindful, to compassionately support our families. And as I said, it's really lived into the fabric of our community. With our natural burial ground, it will be very simple, very much like what Karen described in terms of using green matter, a shallow grave, natural fabrics. We will be using what we have, a lowering cloth that we developed instead of putting boards across the grave. So we have a different way of approaching it, but the same intent of stewarding the land through conservatorship and respecting the simplicity of ancient natural burial techniques. So I don't have too much more to say then. But these are beautiful.
No, thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. And seeing the screen shares is just yeah, no other word to describe it but beautiful. And to see that, I certainly have heard of Crestone End of Life Project, as I know a lot of us have, but to see it is very special. So thank you. I know that there was a time constraint, I believe, with one of you, but is one of you going to be able to remain on the call so you can answer questions at the end?
Yes, this is Stephanie.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so
Okay,
much,
great.
all of you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, Stephanie and Gussie. Thank you so much. Our next presenter, we have Bob Sweeney with Foothills Gardens of Memory. So Bob, take it away.
I can do that. I am honored to be invited, but unlike all these other fine guests, I'm going to let you down. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, never mind. Foothill Gardens of Memory started in 1959. I became owner in June of 2010, and it was a mess. There'd been a lot of bad press about the property and the old owners. So that was the first drive, was to get people to realize that it was a beautiful place to go. It cost a lot of money to move those mountains, so they lined right up with the cemetery. And then we've gone in and primarily the first 5 to 8 years was rectify the property to get the grounds smooth and level. Gardens, unlike cemeteries, are all flat markers. We do have benches. But over the years, I came into the business 15 years ago on the insurance side of things with the Carroll Oil Funeral Home. And we weren't in it too many years. Heath Carroll was a 29-year-old guy. I walk in and ask where the owner was, and he's standing there and he says, "I am." And I looked at him, I said, "I have socks older than you are." But the relationship worked really, really well because he had several years of management experience out of Greeley, and I'm old and got gray hair, so people can align with the old gray hair guy. And we've done quite well. The cemetery worked beautifully hand in hand with the funeral home. Now it's time to move forward. We realize and have seen, and as Karen brought out and the other esteemed guests, there's a lot of options for disposal. Our cemetery itself has the columbariums. It has a mausoleum. We can do natural burial. We can do green burial. We can do multi-burials per space if I have it planned out. So you can do a full and a traditional type burial. And you can also do a cremains. So a lot of people, couples are on the fence. One wants traditional, one wants to be cremated. So however that's worked out, as we moved along for the last 11 years, we are fully out about 10 acres. We still have 30 acres out there. People think it's small, but they don't realize it's so deep. And all our growth right now is on the mountain side of the cemetery, because you just can't duplicate that view anywhere. With that being said, we just had a section that the couple of rabbis came out and have blessed a certain area for the Jewish population. As I said, the other one is a natural section, or a section that has the ability to plant a tree in it because of how the irrigation works out there. So that being said, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of options. And the key to all of this, regardless of what your choices are, is to talk to somebody to plan ahead. Because a lot of times over the last 15 years, somebody said, "Oh, I wish I'd have known of." Well, some things can't be reversed. Or I wish we knew that several people, or a family area of 2 or 3 plots and multi-burial in those plots, almost a family section, can all be prearranged. So I tell people all the time, I know we're burying mom or dad today, but do you, as other family members, do you want a space in the future? I'm not telling you have to pay for it today, but I need to plan ahead so I know there might be 1 or 2 areas to hold. So we don't bury the next person that passes next to the last grave. We've got way too much property, and I love to keep the idea of a family plot or a section for extended families. Other than that, the process of the natural has been covered, shrouded, basket, pajamas, I don't care. And then they're in the natural grass section. Upon burial, we will maintain that space. We won't let it, as referred to, the old west sway. We top it off if needed. Wild grass seed and wildflower seeds go on top each time we do a maintenance on the property. They can do a natural burial in the mode section, but that would require what we call a natural vault, which is bottomless. We place the vault to protect the integrity of the surface, fill the vault with dirt around the deceased, and then put the concrete lid over the whole, right over the casket or the shrouded body. Then we fill in the soil above it, only to maintain the mode area. No, and then we don't, but it's a true natural burial. It's just in the mode section. And I don't know, I'm sure there'll be questions afterwards about what you can or can't do. But right now, it sounds like other options for the disposal of the body has been covered. So I'll turn it back to the moderator.
No, Bob, thank you so much. It's great to hear about all of these different options. And we certainly owe an apology to Colorado Mesa University, because boy, did we mess up their name. Melissa, thank you for letting us know. So this is Melissa Connor with the Forensic Investigation Research Station at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. And we would love to hear what that's all about. And again, our apologies for the really poor name.
Thank you, Sue. I've certainly been called worse, but yeah, we generally try to stay away from the term body farm because we don't feel it's as respectful to our donors as perhaps a more full and scientific name. We are, however, and I'll use the word once, we're what people think of in terms of body farm, what Patricia Cornwell talked about in her book with that name. And we're one of about 9 facilities like this in the world. We have the highest altitude at 5,000 feet. And what this type of facility does is we're tied into criminal justice investigations. And we look at different ways to determine postmortem interval and what happened to the body after death. The fancy term is forensic taphonomy. So our studies have to do with how long has a person been dead, if they've been out a month, 5 months, 3 years. Can we find ways to accurately predict that post-mortem interval? We talk about studies on bodies like how to bring out tattoos best in decomposing remains, because these days those are an incredible identifier. We talk about, there has been research on using the weathering on bone to determine how long that bone has been out there, how long the person's been dead. That we're mainly showing isn't working very well. So we've got some work going on that. So our bodies come from basically 2 sources: individuals who donate themselves, and our donation forms are on the Colorado Mesa University website, www.coloradomesa.com/FIRS. Right now we have about 100 of what we call living donors, and they're people who have pledged to come to us when they die. We have a pickup area around us of about 75 miles and a little tiny budget to cover transportation. Outside of that range, people have to pay for their own transport to us. But otherwise, there's no cost to the family for giving the body to us. The other place that we get our remains is if the next of kin or an executor decides that they wish to donate the remains, the body of somebody, to us. And then they can fill out, we have paperwork for filling out somebody else's remains when you are the next of kin or when that person is the next of kin. So we get remains from people themselves and from families who feel that this is a good option for their decedent. Once the remains come to us, we do an initial documentation, an external exam. We check everything against the paperwork that we've got. I hate to say checking for the correct body, but we do that because we have had the coroner deliver the wrong body to us under the right name. I suspect many of us here on a funeral in the death industry have maybe had something like that happen. So we double and triple check for that. And then we place it. We have about a 2-acre outdoor facility here in the West Slope out near Whitewater, Colorado. And we have a second outdoor facility that we run with the help of the Park County coroner up outside of Fairplay. That facility is at almost 10,000 feet. And the coroners up there tell me they cannot use the existing postmortem interval markers up there. It's just too different. They see different decay processes being emphasized and happening, so that they really want to get a handle on information so that they can fulfill their duties to look at how long people have been dead and what happened to them at or around the time of death and after death. So we have our outdoor facility here. We currently have about 45 bodies outside. Over the years, we started in 2013 with our first donation, and we have probably had about 125 donations total. What happens when the remains come back in, and they usually still have some soft tissue remaining, we clean them up into our skeletal collection. And we now have a skeletal collection of, again, about 50 individuals, where we actually know biomedical conditions. We know fractures that happened before they died. We know their stature, their age, their biological sex. We can use these skeletons to train future anthropologists in how to determine this information from the skeleton. And then we can use it to test both our students and people who are going to court to testify about skeletons that have been found in a medical legal context as to how accurate their estimates actually are. So one of the differences between us and a lot of the other facilities and body donation options is that we don't give anything back. We're never done with the body. We love our skeletons. So families who donate to us, they do get a thank you note. We help them with the death certificate. I do the funeral director portion of the death certificate. But we're not going to give them cremains back. And that's a difficult call for some families, and some families choose different directions because they won't get anything back. But we continue to use those skeletons for education, for training. They're an awesome, incredible resource because everybody is unique and each skeleton is unique. You cannot do professional level training on plastic skeletons. It just isn't going to work well. So our outdoor research facility, that's where we look at taphonomy, how bodies decay, changes in decay. My personal research is an extended postmortem interval, 2, 3, 4 years out. We've got pretty good handles on near time, near death postmortem intervals, but you get to partial skeletons, partially decayed, and the variation's a lot wider. So what causes that variation? Disease is part of it, season of deposition, other factors, and that's what I'm trying to peel back in my research. We have our indoor facility, which is also located in Whitewater. And that houses our skeletons, our student interns, and I have between 3 and 8 student interns a semester that come in and help me work with the remains, do the data collection outside, do the cleaning of the bones to make it a curational skeleton, curation quality skeleton, and do their own training and research projects as they have time. And then our Fair Play facility, the outdoor facility up there is called TB40, short for FERS, the back 40. And we have about 11 skeletons up there right now. A woman named Christine Bajent is doing her dissertation research on the decomposition at 10,000 feet through that.
Melissa, thank you. We just have one other speaker. We want to try and keep the time frame. Really appreciate it. Fascinating. And the Colorado Mesa University Forensic Investigation Research Station, thank you so much. Fascinating. And please hang on because I know that we will have some questions. Our final speaker we have from the State Anatomical Board, Kimberly Ukrop.
It's Okrop.
Oh, great. Well, welcome, Kimberly, with the State Anatomical Board. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure. So our program we were established in 1927. We're actually a medical university anatomy program. So we are a school educating our future doctors. The State Anatomical Board was created to receive donated bodies for the purpose of education and research. And our program is at zero cost to the family. So it is a program that you must be pre-registered for. And you will stay with us for 2 years for a semester with our students. At the end of the 2 years, we do the cremation and the ashes are returned to the family. We have this program has been ongoing for decades, and we really appreciate our donors and our donor families. Every year we do a ceremony on campus, so you can come view the campus and tour it, and the students read poems and the professors do speeches. We have plaques on our campus as a remembrance to our donors. And right now it's such an exciting time in science and education. We are so thrilled to be on the cutting edge of new science that's coming out and new programs that are coming out. And that's about all I have to say.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you. We a lot of questions come in the chat. So let's see, Sue or Jim, I think they were going to read some of the questions, as well as if you have questions that you want to ask an individual speaker. We'll start with the ones in the chat because those may answer some of the questions that you have. But if you want to ask them on your screen, we can do that, but we'll start with the ones that we've received in the chat. So Sue, are you gonna read those?
I am, yeah. Of course, the one that comes up the most often from a couple of people is the cost range. So I am gonna throw that out there for the different panelists to answer to, and just a general range of pricing for your services.
So do you want me to go in order? Let's see, natural funeral. Karen Van Buren, are you still on? I'm gonna just go in order as far as a cost range for the services that are provided at the natural funeral.
I'm still here.
Okay.
So, well, do you want me to include flame? So flame cremation is 2,200 and our water cremation is 3,900. I think basic burial services are 2,800 and body composting, natural reduction is 7,900. Those are for what we call roots packages. So you're not having any kind of ceremony, any reverent body care before the cremation or burial. And it's for the basic services that include paperwork and transport and providing you back with the cremains if we're talking about cremation.
And may I add that Karen does have transparency with her pricing. Her pricing is all on the Natural Funerals website under the general price list. So you can see the whole variety of what they have to offer there and what the costs are.
And
Not
what I
all-
forgot to say was, so giving cremains back, we also can give some soil back with the body composting. There's actually soil, amazingly, that is produced as an end product. And so that is available to families if they so choose to use on their own land.
Great, thank you. And then Emily with Be a Tree, the cost of your services, and I believe they're on your website too.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
have our prices public. Our packages are going to start at $2,250 for our water cremation process. And that includes transportation and a certified copy of the death certificate, as well as a basic urn.
Thank you, thank you. Tomorrow Link, John, you said that's free to the family, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Yeah, so no cost from transportation to final disposition. A couple copies of death certificates is all just our way of saying thank you back to the families and to the donors for making that decision to give on to the next medical learners.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And then Crestone End of Life Project, I know you said it was specific for members of the Saguache County? Stephanie?
Yeah, Saguache. It's weirdly spelled and pronounced. Yeah. So what was the question?
Pricing, just out of curiosity, as far as our open air cremation and pricing.
We don't charge a fee.
Okay.
We're not allowed to. We ask for a donation between 500 and 800, but we also have a fund that if a family is in duress and can't make an offering, which is fine with us, we provide the services for free.
Thank you. You did say that in your presentation. Thank you again for reminding me of that. That's great. And then Bob with Foothills Gardens of Memory.
Yes, basic property, $21.95, naturals, $27, I believe, and then multi-space or family arrangements, there's discounts, and then there's also packaging for cremation or traditional with the cemetery, and I can certainly provide that for anybody that would like that.
Great, thank you. And I know the Forensic Investigation Research Station, that was no cost to the family, correct? As well, yeah.
Yeah, if they transport, we transport within 75 miles of our facility, and otherwise the family does need to pay transport. We do provide a couple copies of the death certificate as well.
Excellent, thank you. And State Anatomical Board, that's a pre-registration and that's at no cost to the family. I believe Kimberly had another commitment, and so she put her website in the chat. Other questions, Sue?
Yes, there was another question asking what is the easiest, quickest, and least expensive? So that ties into what we just overviewed. Obviously, the body donation to Tomorrow Link or Colorado Mesa University, those would be, and the Anatomical Board, those three are all no cost to the family. This was Angela, I think, that asked this question. Angela, if you want to clarify quickest, or are you talking about quickest turnaround of getting cremation ashes back, or how fast the process is? Feel free to unmute yourself to clarify if you want. No? All right, well, we'll come back to that. but I think that, knowing the pricing is definitely helps, and that there are options. People will choose a body donation for research and anatomical research, sometimes because of the lack of cost, because it's completely cost-free, aside from maybe some transportation costs. And then others, really what their motivating factor is around doing something altruistic. I mean, it's the ultimate in recycling, right? Giving back and utilizing your body in that way. So, okay, other questions? How much matter results from water cremation?
Emily, do you want to take that one? How much matter results from water cremation?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So our process, we use about 150 gallons of water. And then with the cremated remains, it's usually several pounds. I'll call it, 5 or 6 pounds on average of the cremated remains at the end. So I believe that answers the question.
Yeah. And I think Karen had also answered in the chat earlier on that it's about 20% more bone matter that is a result of the water cremation than in flame cremation, because in flame cremation there's total a lot of more incineration, and so you would have more mass as far as what we refer to as ashes or cremains with water cremation.
So that probably wouldn't fit into a urn.
It usually does fit pretty well into a standard urn. There's certainly times when we do either a larger urn or we provide two.
Okay. Thank you for that. What else we got? Rain was asking, Karen specifically, is there heat added to increase the decomposition through water cremation?
Was that water cremation or body composting?
Water cremation.
Oh, water cremation. Yeah, it's not it is a process that does require the water to be heated, but it's below boiling. It's not like we're going that far, and it happens, yeah, as I said, over a period of hours, and then the bones are removed and they're dehydrated, and they are reduced in the same way to the same kind of form that you would receive back flame cremains.
And then how about with the decomposition process, with the body composting process? Is there heat added?
Well, interestingly enough, if you have a lot of hot microbial activity happening with the composting matter that we're putting on top of the body, the temperature does raise during the composting process, and that is a time during which pathogens are broken down, and we are required to monitor temperature, and the body needs to be at 103.3 degrees for at least 72 hours, so that in that time frame the breakdown of pathogens can really take place, and that's ensuring that the process is going to be safe ultimately for returning to the earth.
Thank you, Karen. Someone wants to know where Foothills Garden of Memory is, Bob.
Sorry about that. We're in Boulder County. We're just on the north side of Longmont, about a mile and a half outside Longmont toward Berthoud, and probably one of the prettier cemeteries you're going to see.
Thank you. Angela did clarify in the chat that she was curious about the speed of process. What would be the quickest process? Flame cremation, water cremation, body composting. How many hours does it take with your water cremation process, Emily?
Yeah, so our water cremation is about 18 hours start to finish. But it definitely seems a little difficult to give a time frame for everything, because if you're going into the ground or donating, then it's a little different. But probably fire cremation is the fastest if you're looking at just simply getting remains back.
Right. Karen, did you have anything to add to that?
As far as the time frame?
Yes.
Things. I don't know. I mean, you're giving to the earth, right? And it's hard to compare burial and cremation, really.
Right.
If you're expecting to get something back, then of course cremation, but if you're giving to the earth, it's an immediate gift to the earth.
Hmm.
I think, Angela, to answer a question, fire cremation, 3 hours? I'm just guessing. I think it's about 3.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there have been a couple of requests for clickable links for each of the presenters. When we send out the, I know for my email list, I'll send out the recording link, and we'll include definitely the clickable links for all the presenters in that email. If you're not, didn't come tonight because of receiving an email from Out of the Box End of Life, would you send me your email address? And I will then make sure you get the link for the recording and the links to the presenters. And my email address is outoftheboxendoflifeplanning@gmail.com. There's a question about, can a body just simply be dropped into the ground without being messed with? I think maybe we could use a little more clarification around what green burial actually is, and as differentiated from our conventional burial that we're used to. Karen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So green burial has happened throughout the ages. And if you think of the Quakers, for example, in New England, they have cemeteries that are pretty unmanicured. There's natural vegetation, often kind of a little wild looking. There are no vaults, which are big coverings that go over the graves to prevent the land from sinking so that the lawns can get mowed. And where I grew up in England, the cemeteries are all different levels, because we over many hundreds of years never used vaults. I think perhaps now that might still be the case. Actually, in England, we have a lot of woodland cemeteries as well, which are cemeteries that often are multi-use. So you could have a tract of land where the body can go into the earth, and there might be an orchard, or there might be a hiking trail. And so green burial really does mean the simplest return to the earth, where the body does not have any toxic chemicals in it, which are introduced when we do embalming, which is a temporary method of preservation. And hopefully there's, biodegradable shrouds or clothing that is on the deceased, and the depth of the grave is more shallow, so that the body can break down and be returned to the earth more quickly. And the container, if it's not a shroud, is also biodegradable. So it might be a casket that is a simple pine box, which of course is in the Jewish tradition as well. And all in all, you are just using so much less in terms of resources than with conventional burial, which might mean a cemetery has a very high water usage, uses pesticides and fertilizers, and allows embalmed bodies, and allows containers that are not biodegradable. And so, there's a lot that's going into the earth, and green burial is really a very old tradition. And people can bury on private land too, depending where they live. Mm-hmm. Right? Our funeral home has done some burials on private land, and it's pretty amazing to think that a family would want to have a cemetery in their backyard, but you have to consider that that's going to be on the property deed in the future, and whether the land's going to be accessible to future generations or not. But still, it appeals to some people that they're going to put their loved one in the earth so they can visit and be with them, at least be with the with the grave, and knowing the body is there.
Thanks, Karen. And Bob, did you have anything to add, because you've worked with conventional burial and green burial, and so
Yeah.
there are things to note about the difference between the two.
Well, Karen did a great job. And to the question that came up, yes, you can do a no fuss burial, direct to the earth, lowered in, and there's no, unless they want to do a biodegradable type container, they do not have to do that. And as I said, that we will maintain that ground though. We don't want the ground to hollow out. So, and of course, traditional is as Karen brought out, you have a concrete vault, metal or wood casket, and it's packed, and it just, we try to keep the grounds like a park. So yeah, there is options to no fuss.
Someone would like to know where green burial is currently allowed. We know obviously at Foothills Garden of Memories. And I know that there's an option up in Fort Collins. Karen, you're familiar with where you've done green burials. I know you also use Bob, but give us a rundown.
Yeah, totally. So Lions Cemetery, we actually persuaded the town to establish a green section, so it's possible there. And there are certainly shades of green out there. Most of the cemeteries in Boulder County require vaults. Apart from, Foothills Garden of Memory is really pretty unique in Boulder County in having this green section. So other than that, you could go to some mountain towns. I know Idaho Springs and Empire are just little town cemeteries that they don't require vaults. It's not like they're saying we don't want embalmed bodies, we won't take them, but certainly you can do a very minimal burial there with a simple wooden box and no vault. And the cemetery is really not landscaped. The wildflowers and the local vegetation is very present.
Right.
I think Evergreen Memorial Park as well.
Yes.
Yep.
That's down Colorado Springs.
No, Evergreen.
Oh, in Evergreen. Okay. There's also availability in the public cemetery in Colorado Springs and the public cemetery in Fort Collins.
Yeah, and actually there's a new one called Colorado Burial Preserve, which is, oh gosh, I'm not very good with my geography, but it's about an hour from Colorado Springs and is founded by a young woman who used to work for, I believe, the Lafayette Howe mortuary branch. And then she decided she wanted to open a green burial ground. And it's not a conservation burial ground, despite the name, but it's a green burial cemetery. Conservation burial, the nearest conservation burial ground is actually in New Mexico. I think it's called La Puerta. And that's a concept where you are conserving land, right? So it's not going to look like a cemetery. They're going to be very unobtrusive markers, or they're going to be GPS locators to show where graves are. But the idea is it's a land trust, and that land is never going to be developed, and it allows for a simple return to the earth. And we don't have a conservation burial ground in Colorado yet. So if you really want that, New Mexico is kind of a deserty closest option for that.
Right.
Seven Stones in Chatfield, South Littleton area also has a green burial option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fairly new, just a couple years old cemetery, and they have a full-on green burial section.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that we don't have a green burial option right in close into Boulder with all of our open space and such. Karen has actually been active, had a group involved with her and trying to get some sort of a use of the land that we have, all this open space, and making it multi-use for green burial and recreation, which is what conservation burial is. And that initiative just has not gotten traction in quite a few years, sadly. but at least we've got Foothills Garden of Memories.
And
there's-
Crestone, Marilyn mentioned Crestone has a natural, yep, a green burial section, natural burial section.
Yes, we're just establishing that, and it is a land stewardship.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Yeah, that's why we did it. And so it's not set up like a regular cemetery at all. The graves are chosen by the family or the person before they die, but it's between plant material. So no family plots, nothing like that.
Mhm.
Just very simple.
And then there is an option for greenish burial, which means that in a conventional cemetery, you can ask, most conventional cemeteries require the vaults we were talking about, but you can ask to have your body placed directly on the earth and then have that vault, instead of it being a closed box, 6-sided, they get rid of the lid and they put it upside down like a butter dish over the body, so that the body is in contact with the earth, if that's important to you. And that is how Jewish faith and Muslim faith bury their dead. And then you're still meeting the cemetery's requirement that they have the vault that keeps the ground from caving in during decomposition and makes it easier for them to mow the lawn after they've applied a lot of fertilizer and pesticides and water to grow. That's the purpose of the vault. So you can go greenish, and within those same parameters, you can go without embalming, and you can go with a biodegradable casket or shroud, and keep it as green as possible if it's important to you to be in a certain cemetery, say your family is buried there, or it's a place that's convenient for family to visit, sort of thing. There was one, yeah, go ahead.
Carol asked what happens if you prepay for water cremation and then move out of the area? Is there a vehicle or a value to transferable?
Thanks, Jim.
I could speak to that from our standpoint.
Mhm.
So if you pre-plan at Be a Tree, we do have an insurance-based program. And a big reason for that is that it is transferable. So should you move or relocate, that policy could be transferred to another provider in that area.
Great. Does it work the same way with the natural funeral, Karen?
Yeah, I mean, any funeral home that is taking prepayment money is going to be putting it into an insurance program because that's required by law.
Okay, and the insurance is transferable then to another funeral home. Just a word of precaution, though, if you do prepay for a funeral, be sure your family knows about it, because oftentimes the paperwork's not available at the time of death, no one knows, and then the family goes ahead and pays for a whole nother funeral, and it's a mess. So communication, and make sure that whatever prearranging paperwork you do around your funerals or your medical directives or anything else, just make sure it's available, that someone knows where that folder or that binder or whatever is. You don't want to do all that work of preparing and then have it not found at the time of death. So I have a question for Stephanie. With Crestone, at Crestone, does having a vacation home there qualify you for being able to use the funeral pyre?
Yes. You can be an out-of-town property owner.
Mhm.
You can just own a lot.
Okay.
Or you could come and, be a resident here for 3 months, and then you qualify. Again, all the information is on our website. If you go to the registration packet, because there's certain responsibilities that we place on those people who are out-of-town property owners in terms of how we would serve them, and how it's a kind of reciprocity between families and Crestone End of Life, the way we serve people. And actually, we've involved when it was natural transitions, and recently the funeral home with Karen, with some of our clients, where they're in Denver, that area. They died, but they want to be have their disposition with Crestone End of Life, and they've registered. So we work together in arranging transport, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Mhm.
Did you
I'm
see the question, Sue, about I think national forest? Let me see. What about public lands, national forest? I'm assuming, let's see, William asked that question, so I don't know if he's talking about burial or scattering. Scattering, yes, it's allowed. You're supposed to get a park pass, not a park pass. I think you fill out something online. Somebody else, yeah.
William, would you care to clarify either verbally or in the chat?
Natural burial. Thank you, William. He clarified with natural burial on public land, national forest.
Yeah, that it's not legal as far as I know. It has to be a designated area for body disposition, so.
Great question.
It is a good question because that's the ultimate in green burial is this conservation burial where what they're doing in Creststone, where the land is in trust and I believe Colorado Burial Preserve is similar. The land's in trust, it will be protected in perpetuity. Bodies can be buried there. And also the land can be used for recreation. So it's multi-purpose use of the land that will be protected for forever.
I have a question actually, and this might show my ignorance because I don't know if the chemical breaks it down, but for water cremation, are there any metals left? Because I was part of a company that did fire cremation for and there were metals left. And are there any metals that are left in water cremation?
Oh yeah, any metals that were in the body, like a artificial knee or whatever it may be, is all there at the end. So we're just able to easily separate that and recycle it, and keep it separate from the rest of the remains.
Okay, thank you.
Emily, would you care to elaborate a little more on because of water cremation compared to flame cremation, what we're protecting the environment from as far as flame cremation goes?
Mostly the emissions. So again, just looking at the carbon footprint, that's the biggest difference between the two is the amount of energy that goes into the process. It's about 90% less with a water cremation. And then just even the direct emissions that can affect air quality. So if someone were to have, say, a mercury dental filling, that kind of goes out into the air. So it's really on both those fronts in terms of carbon footprint and air quality.
Thank you. And John Chapman had to leave from TomorrowLink. I wanted to clarify that they're the only nonprofit.
And I'm still here.
Oh, you are? Okay, John, would you just clarify for everyone the difference between donating to TomorrowLink versus say Science Care or any of the other body donation places?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So we are a registered 501c3 not-for-profit organization. So we everything that we do is focused on empowering our local community first responders as our number one mission. There's a massive need for whole body donation, at the university level, at our level, because a lot of different whole body donation organizations that are in this space service out of state, out of country requirements for tissue because there's more money outside of Colorado, outside of the country for that manner. So we are very, very hyper focused on ensuring that our universities, our learners at every varying level of their emergency medicine medical career are satisfied, and we're able to do that underneath and through our nonprofit.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's important to me.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, we've got like one more minute. Any other questions anyone wants to throw out? I hope I caught everything, that we caught everything in the chat. There are a few links in the chat to Foothills and I think Beatrice.
And
And
do you know, Sue, if we have the clickable links of the presenters on our website? If not, we can certainly
Well,
get that on there.
yeah, that would be the easiest in case some of the people on the call today don't receive the recording directly into their email box. Yes, we will put the presenters' direct links on our website. Perfect.
No, we certainly, and thank you everybody for the comments. We certainly want to be a resource. We want to be advocates. We want to encourage conversations. You know, and so if you have any feedback for us, we are open to the feedback. We're all volunteers. We just want to get this information out there. It's a passion project for all of us. The volunteer space that we work in, as well as all of you in the professional space that you work in, truly, truly passion projects, and we're all kindred spirits. And so thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, thank you. And if any of you are really also share our passion for helping inform consumers about this particular aspect of their lives and getting information and education out into the community, we're trying to branch out to the entire state where we've been focused pretty locally. But we welcome volunteers. We especially could use help with marketing and social media and that sort of thing. And we welcome new board members. So consider us if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity. We would be so happy to have you. Okay, I think that's it. But yeah, thank you to our presenters, especially Yay for all the information that you shared. I think we're seeing comments in the in the chat that people are kind of blown away by knowing that there's like all these things that they never knew about before. So that was our goal. So mission accomplished.
I know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue and Jill, for setting it up.
You are
Yeah,
welcome.
you
Have a
bet.
good rest of the evening, everyone.
This was
Take
wonderful.
care. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
You as well. Merry Yule.
Bye.